Today's video is all about the beautiful lemongrass, and I'll be talking about the benefits of having it in your garden, where to find it, how to grow it, how to propagate it, how to use it, and how to preserve it. My lemongrass plant here is a little younger. The more mature, established lemongrass plants will be a lot fuller and bushier than what you are seeing here. And though you can't really tell now because there's a lot of light still around the base of this plant, but as it gets fuller, it will suppress weeds around the area where it's actually growing. Another benefit of growing lemongrass is that the leaves up here and the stalks are both edible. So the leaves up here are usually used in teas, either fresh or dried. And the thicker stalks down here, like this one, is used for culinary purposes. So it's actually really popular in Thai and other Asian dishes, but certainly not limited to those cuisines. It brings a nice, lovely flavor. Just get creative. And then for the younger stalks, like the thinner ones, like this one, or maybe even this one over here, you can actually chop this up and add it to cold water and let it infuse in that water, and you can sip on that all day. It's delicious and lovely all around. And although this plant may look scraggly right now, it becomes such a beautiful ornamental plant. So even if you're not planning on using it for teas or for culinary uses, it's really just gorgeous in the landscape and in the gardens. But besides its beauty, if this plant gets really large, or if you are propagating it and are growing multiple lemongrass plants, you can use the foliage as chop and drop, as a natural mulch around your fruit trees or your garden beds, your containers, and that will help feed the soil and the plants nearby. What I really love about lemongrass is how it's been used medicinally for thousands of years to treat digestive issues, to help regulate blood pressure, to ease insomnia, stress and anxiety, coughs and colds, fevers. There's a lot of uses, but of course, if you have health issues or are on medications, clear it with your doctor before you supplement with natural remedies such as lemongrass. Another great thing about growing this plant is you can harvest as needed, or you can wait until the end of the year and do a large harvest and then preserve it, which I'll talk a little bit more about later in this video. Now, where to find lemongrass? So you can check your big box stores in their garden centers. Sometimes they sell it there. You can also check your local nurseries to see if they carry it. You can go on Facebook Marketplace, which is where I went and I found mine. And it just so happened that the lady that was selling it lived a couple streets up from me. So that was convenient. I know there are some vendors on Etsy that are selling it, but you can also check out your local Asian supermarkets. A lot of them sell lemongrass with the base still intact. So you won't have roots on it, but you'll still have that base. And if you see that base, you can easily root that in water. You would just place that base or those bases into a glass of water, change out that water every 3 days or so, leave it inside of your home, maybe by a sunny window, and within a few weeks you'll see roots on there. So once you have those established roots, you can transplant those into pots or outside in ground. But if you're going to directly transplant outside, just make sure that you provide it with some really good shade for its initial, I don't know, week or two of being outside, just to gently transition it to the outdoors. That way you don't risk burning or killing that small plant. Now, if you can't find lemongrass anywhere, but you really want to grow it, and you can grow this from seed. They do need light to germinate, so you'll want a very fine seed starter mix. Place the seeds on top of the soil, give it a light spray, and then place some sort of plastic or plastic wrap on top to keep the humidity in. Give it some light, whether it's grow lights indoors or by a sunny window or even outside in your porch or patio, and you should see them start to sprout up within a week or two. Lemongrass is a tropical and subtropical plant, so it's going to thrive in those climates and in zones 9 and above. it will grow as a perennial there. Now, if your winters are a little on the colder side, like mine actually drop into the mid to even low 20s sometimes, then the lemongrass will die back, but don't pull it out from the ground because the dieback is normal and it will bounce right back up in the springtime. Now, if you are in zones 8 or below, you can still grow lemongrass. The best bet would be to grow it in containers, a 5-gallon container, a 10-gallon. You can even up that to a 15-gallon, but I would say that you'd get a nice big lemongrass plant with a 5 and 10-gallon container. So those are sufficient, just depending on how much you're going to use, how much you need. And then before the winter arrives, what you can do is bring them indoors, place them by a sunny window. But let's say that you don't want to grow it in containers, you want to grow it in ground. You can still do so, but I would recommend propagating it by removing some sections, placing those into a glass of water, leaving that indoors by a sunny window, change out the water every few days, and it will stay alive like that for you for months until the springtime comes around. Lemongrass will tolerate poor soil, but it's going to grow best with some fertility in that soil. So you can either add compost in or around the planting hole, maybe some worm castings, and even some blood meal, which is a natural fertilizer high in nitrogen, which is great for leafy growth. And when it comes to the watering, they do like consistent water, but they also like to dry out in between watering. So it kind of thrives on neglect, but thrives with consistent water. And here where I am in Florida, our summers are pretty wet. It does rain often, so you're going to notice if you are in a climate like that, where you're getting a lot of rains and it's warm or humid outside, it's going to grow really quickly for you. It just doesn't like to sit in wet, soggy soil for too long. So make sure that wherever you are growing it, whether it's in ground or in containers, that you have a nice, well-draining soil. Now, it does like full sun, but it can tolerate part sun, part shade. So if you can't give it full sun all day, it'll still do great. How to propagate lemongrass. So this is pretty easy. You can propagate by dividing these clumps. But if you come in here with a small spade shovel, or sometimes even with your hands, you can remove some of these clumps, divide them up, and then plant those divisions either in containers or in ground in other areas of your garden, as long as they still have their roots attached. Now, I'll show you an example here. Right, so you see how I just pulled up this little clump, and this is one stalk. As you can see, it's all attached and it has some roots intact. So this one here is perfect to just plant right into a container and let it get a little more mature before you place it out in the garden. Right now, it is summer here in Florida, and if I just place this in ground, it might go through a bit of a shock just because of the heat index and just how crazy our summers are. Now, if I were to be doing this in the springtime, it may be okay to just plant directly in the ground, but it really depends on your soil, the climate. If you feel it's a little too harsh outside, I would just place it in a container, let it get a little more mature before you place it in ground. Now, it's important to note that not only is summertime a little harsh to just plop this right into the ground, but depending on where you live, the wintertime or fall going into winter may also be the wrong time to just place this in ground, especially if your winters are cold, like where I am here in 9A. We drop down into the mid 20s, sometimes even low 20s, a couple of nights a year. So I wouldn't place this directly in ground past September. Instead, what I would do is place them in small containers or even solo cups with drain holes. Put some well-draining soil in there and grow them inside your house in front of a sunny window. Or if you want to skip the soil altogether, you can just plop this in a glass of water and it will stay alive for months indoors. Just make sure you change the water out every couple days, 3 days or so. Now I'll show you an example of propagating it without roots. So let's say that you pull this up out of the ground, or you got fresh stalks from an Asian grocery store and it doesn't have the roots attached, but it still has the base. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, This is what I mean about the base. You see how there are no roots attached, but you still have this bottom part here? Roots will form from this bottom part when placed in water. So you can still easily propagate lemongrass this way. Now, there are several ways to use your lemongrass. The first way is going to be by using the leaves. These leaves can be used in teas. They can be added to soups, stews, stocks, curries. The stalks can be used in your dishes as well. The thicker the stalk, the better it is for your dishes. I like to reserve the thinner stalks like this for infusing water or even adding them to teas. But with the stalks, you generally want to remove the outer leaves like this, another one here. Okay, here we go. You see how there are no more leaves wrapping around that inner stalk? This is what we want to chop up and add to our dishes. So if you're not interested in eating the actual stalk, but you want it to flavor your dishes, you can actually pound it with like a rolling pin to release some of the fragrant oils in here, and then add big pieces into your soups, stir fries, stocks, things like that. But if you're interested in actually eating it, you'll want to mince it up finely, like if you were to mince up garlic, then you can add it to your dishes that way. Again, same thing, stir fries, soups, curries, stews. I'm going to take this leafy growth on top and start chopping it up and placing that into some boiling water. I'm going to let that steep for a few minutes, strain it, and either drink it hot like that or cool it off, place it in the fridge, and either drink it as is or sweeten it with some honey. And for the stalks that are on the thinner side, like this one, I will just chop this up and steep that in some cold water for a few hours. Let that infuse and enjoy it that way. And for the thicker stalks, we will go ahead and mince those up and add those to our dishes. Okay, now let's talk about preserving your lemongrass. What I like to do for the leaves is I like to dry this out. You can either dry it on the lowest setting of your food dehydrator, or my favorite way to dry this is just simply taking the bundle of leaves and tying them up and then hanging them upside down in my house for about a week or so until it's completely dry. Once it's completely dry, what I like to do is chop them up into like 1-inch pieces, give or take, and then place those leaves into a mason jar. Go ahead and seal that up really good and store it in my cabinet for future use. And the way to preserve the stalks would be to chop them up into pieces, however large or small you'd like. Place those pieces into a Ziploc bag and place them into the freezer. Or if you have a food saver and you can just vacuum seal it, go ahead and do that. Or you can take a big bunch of stalks and you can process it in your food processor to kind of mince it all up, and then take all of that minced up lemongrass stalks and place them into a Ziploc, take all the air out, and place them in your freezer for future use. Now go get yourself a lemongrass plant. So I really hope this video on lemongrass was helpful. If you learned something new or liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you on our next one.